Hey babes, my name's Hannah.
And my name's Chasity.
Welcome back to Bookish Babes. Today we are filming our June 2023 reading wrap up.
This is ridiculous.
I know. We're already almost halfway through July. By the time we're getting around to filming this. Yeah. I read 5 this month. You read how many?
7.
7. So probably better if you start and finish, right?
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
This was kind of a weird month for me. I've been having kind of a little bit of a reading slump. And I've been like kind of bouncing all around to different genres. Because not really anything is catching me recently.
I feel that.
However, though, like I'm starting to get back into it. I feel like I'm doing better. At the beginning of the month, I really struggled. I was just listening to a whole lot of music. That probably had to do with these guys here, though, because, you know, like I was going to see them in June. I went to go see Fall Out Boy, and my little pea-sized brain couldn't get past that, you know, like that was it.
We both had like the biggest concerts of our lives in June.
Yes.
So like we were very focused. I went to the Eras tour. I went and saw Taylor Swift, and she went and saw Fall Out Boy. So
which I had VIP for. So I like dreams
it was
coming
all you
true.
were focused on.
Yeah, it was literally all I was focused on. So yeah, I mean it makes sense. But the first one that I did read was The Stonewall Reader, and that was published by New York Public Library. I spoke about this one in our Pride video, which is already up. I really enjoyed reading this one. I want to keep expanding my education and learning more about what others have gone through in this battle for just civil rights. Yeah. Just rights that everyone should have. Stonewall was really like a catalyst that started to change events. It's not that there weren't issues before then, but it's kind of like when people started to have enough and started to really fight back. And getting to hear those firsthand accounts, because I do recommend, if you're going to read it, to also listen to the audiobook while you're reading it. They play a lot of the original interviews, and it was very eye-opening, very educational, heartbreaking, honestly, to listen to a lot of that. I gave it 5 stars. This was definitely something that I was looking forward to it coming out. When it came out, I grabbed it right away. And yeah, it was really good.
The first one I'm going to talk about is actually an anthology. It's called Falling for the Enemy. There's a ton of authors in there. It's a charity anthology. I read a few, but the one that I want to point out is Trick or Truce by Kristen Granada. That one was my favorite that I read out of there. If you've never read an anthology before, where a bunch of authors get together and write like short stories and put it in one book, and it's usually for some sort of charity event. And this one was really cute. I liked it a lot. It's obviously, as you can tell by the title, it was like Halloween themed.
Okay, yeah, I've never heard. I didn't hear of this one.
Yeah, it was really good. They're all indie authors. And
I'm gonna have to look this one up.
This one in particular, the Trick or Truce, it was about people who live across the street from one another, and it's a single dad romance, which I've been into lately. Okay,
I need more of these. So yeah, I need to read it.
And basically the man's daughter like steals a antique like candy bowl from the woman when she's out at like a Halloween party, and that kind of starts like a prank war between them. And it's just really cute, and it also deals with like some deeper topics. It does deal with like a trigger warning for infertility. She's a teacher, so there's she's just kind of like fun and quirky and loves kids and is super sweet, and it gets into like this prank war with like a cranky single father that lives across the street from her. And it's just it was a really cute short story. But I read a couple other ones. I can't remember the names of them, but everything that I read was pretty good, but that one was the one that I wanted to mention.
Okay. All right. I have to check that one out. Do you know what the charity was for?
I don't remember.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check it out. I love charity anthologies. The next one that I read was For You and Only You by Caroline Kepnes. I gave this one 3 stars. This might be where Mr. Goldberg and I part ways.
Oh, I didn't realize she was still writing those.
Yes.
Okay.
So, here's the thing. I loved You and Hidden Bodies. The third one was not my favorite. I felt like we kind of jumped a lot. This one, For You and Only You, again, I felt like we jumped. I love her writing style. I think she does a really good job telling a story. However, my issues are that I feel like book 3 and 4 are like another episode or like another season of like a show. Book 1 and book 2, like they had a natural flow of when you're telling like a novel, like a storyline through book writing. Books 3 and 4 didn't feel like that. It felt like you were watching a show and like that season ended and then so the next season starts anew and maybe you've lost some pieces. And I don't particularly care for that because I don't feel like it's doing the characters justice. And in this one specifically, because like I probably would have kept reading, but in this one specifically, I feel like we've really broken character with Joe. Like Joe Goldberg is not the same Joe Goldberg he was in the first 2 books, and I really feel like towards the end, it's completely broken character. I also don't understand how he's not caught.
Yeah, that's just kind of not realistic at this point.
It's very non-realistic, especially because there's somebody who actually knows of all his crimes in this book, and like nothing's done. So this one I did kind of feel like the storyline itself was a little bit far-fetched, and I know it's fiction and I know we're not supposed to stick exactly to like what would actually be real, but like we're already doing that with the story of You and Hidden Bodies because like he's already gotten away with quite a bit of shit. The third book, it was okay, like I said. I felt like it was really jumpy, but this fourth one, I had a lot of trouble connecting. I did not like any of the new characters. Like, not one. I did not like any of them, and the fact that at the very, like, end, I just feel like Joe's character was completely broken. Yeah, I don't know. If there's gonna be another book, I'm not sure I'm gonna pick it up.
Makes sense.
I say that, I probably would just to see what happens, honestly.
But it won't be like, you won't immediately reach for it like you have been.
Yeah, like book 1 and 2 are like really where my heart lies with that story. I think, honestly, at this point, it could have ended after Hidden Bodies and been done.
Do you think it's maybe like the success she's trying to drag it a little bit?
Maybe, like, I'm a little concerned that, like, maybe the show influenced a little bit more of how this book, like, book 3 and book 4 went. I don't know if this was her original vision for these two. It may have been. But I do know that she has a background in writing for television. So I think that does come through quite a bit in book 3 and book 4. And I don't know if maybe, like, her editor and the publisher, like, just weren't as caring and thoughtful to make sure that it flowed like a novel should, because they were, like, already banking on the success of the show and whatnot. But I love Caroline Kepnes, don't get me wrong. I'm kind of like, dang, kind of a letdown.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, I still enjoyed it because I wanted to know what was going to happen. So I give it 3 stars because, like, if I were to read this book on its own, it might have been more interesting. But, like, being the 4th installment of Joe Goldberg was just, it did not live up to it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next one I want to talk about is I finally read The Duke and I, which is the first Bridgerton novel.
Okay.
After being I have been, since the first season came out, I've been obsessed with the show. I've just never actually reached for the books, just because I've heard mixed things.
Yeah, I'd really like to know what you
So
thought.
I know your complaint.
Okay, good.
Yes. And her complaint is everybody's complaint with the book, is that it was good up until a certain scene.
And I stopped reading it after that. Yeah.
So, first of all, let me say that I gave it 4 stars.
Okay.
I understand people's complaint about that scene. For those of you guys who don't know, I feel like it's been out for so long, plus the show is out, they're talking about that, the scene where they changed it in the show.
They did.
They made it a
changed
little more tame in the show.
Mhm.
But in the book, he's very drunk and they have sex. He's very, very, very drunk. And I get people's complaint with that. And so I don't want to make it seem like I'm, like, trying to justify it.
No, and it's the whole thing of, like, I would be just as outraged if it was reversed. So, like, she definitely took advantage.
Well, yes.
And she knew that he did not want a child. And there had been the lines from the beginning. And I'm just, so I have a problem.
think my biggest thing is the roles weren't reversed. I think it would have been very different if it was him, because she had no idea what sex was until they got married. You know what I mean? It was never explained to her. She didn't even know how babies were made. She had no idea what was going to happen on their wedding night.
That's true.
And he did. He had sex before. And so, like, I think we need to keep in mind, like, the time period this is supposed to take place in. I don't think she knew fully what she was doing. I'm not saying that it was right. It was still very wrong.
I understand.
I don't think she realized what she was doing.
I understand. I can understand that.
I don't think
right.
the word rape had ever been said to her. I don't think that she, or sexual assault, like, it's not 2023. Like, this was a different time frame. Once again, still wrong. I want to reiterate that I'm not trying to justify it.
She's sorry.
I don't think that she knew what she was doing.
Oh, you're correct in that. I do agree with you there. She did not know anything.
Yeah, but I can understand why now in 2023, us reading that, it's upsetting to read about, because we know that what she's doing is wrong. Also, it's fiction. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not trying to. It's not like it's a person that I'm trying to justify, but I feel like she just she had no idea what she was doing.
To be fair, I just wasn't, like, it wasn't my favorite thing that I was reading. Anyways.
Yeah.
Like, it was just kind of fluff for me. I
also just feel like that scene was so out of character for both of them.
It had no place.
Yeah, I wish that that scene should just not exist.
It should not exist.
It
that
didn't
was my
ruin
biggest,
my reading experience, though.
Okay, that's fair.
Because I was able to just be like, that was fucking weird. Like, she didn't know what she was doing, and also that scene should just not exist, because that was weird to read about.
I guess I just got mad about it, because I was like, it had no place.
It had no place. Once again, I want to reiterate that I'm not trying to justify it. I feel like people are going to watch this and be like,
I wasn't having a great time anyways.
Yeah.
Like, because I thought Daphne was really annoying, to be honest. Like,
she reminds me a lot.
What's his name? Simon?
Yeah.
He was the only good part of that book for me. Like, she got on my nerves. So, like, once that scene hit, I was done. I don't
feel like she got on my nerves, because I feel like she was just so young and so inexperienced, and nobody prepared her for that. Like, nobody prepared her for any of that.
No,
you know what I mean?
Well, they didn't, and I think that's why I was so irritated. Her entire family.
Yeah, her value is really placed, like, in her ability to find a good husband, and, like, that was her focus, and procreate.
And
you know what I mean?
Probably why I don't read these books, because that's not.
I know.
I hate it. I just hate everything
do too,
about that.
which is weird that I'm, like, so into the show.
No, I mean,
so I will be reading
the
future books. I am skipping the second book because I can't stand Anthony. I hate him. I like his season, and I don't like him as a character. I won't be reading his book. He's insufferable to me.
I've never watched the show.
Anthony's her older brother.
I read
the one that's like the head of the family right now, because the dad died. But
I just
he's the
I
worst.
don't know. I just couldn't. I wasn't having a great time anyways.
Yeah. I think I will like future books more than this one. But
it's not that, like, I don't like. I have to be in the mood for historical fiction.
Yeah.
Like, or historical romance. Yeah. I should say.
I'm really excited to read. I think I'm going to skip around, actually, in the series, because I really want to read Colin and Penelope's, but I do want to read Benedict's as well.
The next one I read was Voices from Chernobyl by Svetlana Alexievich.
Sure.
I think I did pretty good on that name, honestly. It's probably still wrong, but I tried. 5 stars to this. Holy shit. Like, so I've been reading this one for a long time. If you look at my Goodreads, it says I've been reading it for like 5 months. Because I've been reading it in sittings, because it's
a lot.
so mortifying and heartbreaking. I mean, these accounts just, first of all, I can't wrap my fucking head around some of the stuff that happens. The part that you specifically told me about with the little boy, because his dad worked on the reactor and was wearing that hat, and that little boy wore the hat, and then he got the brain cancer. But also, I mean, these people were dying at a rapid rate. The most insane things were happening to their bodies, and nobody was telling them anything.
This was communist Soviet Union, where like the government did not have to provide them with any information about what was happening. So they did not evacuate the city as soon as they should have.
Nope.
They let kids go to school, and there's HBO has a really great series about Chernobyl. There's scenes though where children are like looking up, and there's ashes like falling from the sky, like hitting their face, and it's like ashes from like the nuclear fallout from that. It's horrifying to look at that they didn't, evacuate people as soon as possible because they were not listening to the scientists.
No, because everything was radioactive. Everything was radioactive,
and for like a good, like there are miles out from the Chernobyl, like people in Moscow were getting affected by it.
Yeah, by the time they started evacuating people were starting to understand. Like, people outside of the range were starting to understand they would not let Chernobylites, right, is how I think that's how it's said. They would not let them in. Like, they wouldn't take anybody in. Like, you can't come here, kind of thing. So it was really, like, they had nowhere to go. They had nothing. And it didn't matter anyways because they had been living on this radioactive land for so long.
The damage had been done.
The damage had been done. They were getting sick and they were dying.
Well, what's really interesting too is like people who lived around Chernobyl knew of Chernobyl, like the nuclear power plant, but they didn't know what that meant. Like they had no idea what they lived next to.
Not a clue. Not a clue.
And the firefighters who showed up to clear up after the explosion, like they were wearing like gloves and protective gear, and they would touch something and it would burn them through the protective gear. Yeah. Like it was crazy. If you haven't watched the series, you need to watch the series. It's very good.
Yeah. I mean, I highly recommend this book. It does
it's true stories of people who were involved. Yeah.
It's true accounts, and that's what's I think really got me. I mean, there's a lot of books on Chernobyl, but this one really got me because, like you said, it's directly from accounts there, and that was just like crazy to me. Like kids still playing in like sandboxes and stuff that like they're playing in radioactive material, and
most people from
the vegetables, all the vegetables that they're like,
the soil is contaminated, and I mean to this day, this happened so many years ago, and to this day, there are still. Like that you're not supposed to eat things planted, in the ground there, and they still have all the firefighters that showed up to clean up. They still have all their clothes buried underneath the hospital, and it is still radioactive in some areas. Like you can't obviously with the crisis going on and the conflict between Ukraine and Russia right now, you can't do it right now. But up until a couple years ago, when everything started, you could tour Chernobyl.
I wouldn't.
I would. I think it would be cool. It's safe. Like you're exposed to more radiation in like an airplane than you are walking around most areas of Chernobyl. Like there's some areas they don't let you go in. Okay. But I
was gonna say like the workers. I just think it's so.
You have to they have to phase the workers out. Like you can't work there for more than a certain amount of time out of the year.
I believe it.
Yeah. Because of the exposure.
I mean, it was just insane to read about this because like. I mean, we know what it is now. They had no idea, and they were like having people work it, and like you said, they were burying clothes. They were like hiring people to dig and to bury things, but like these men didn't know what they were doing.
Nobody knew. Yeah.
Nobody knew what they were doing. They were just doing what they were instructed to do, which was like dig a bunch of holes and bury things, and they didn't understand quite what that meant. And then like they would go home and like wash their clothes with the rest of their clothes.
They would go home and like hug their wives,
like sit on their couches, and they just
let their kids wear their hats
and just contaminate everything.
Yes, there's the story we're talking about is like a little boy. Her dad, I think his dad was like one of the firefighters that helped clean up, and he let his son wear the hat that he was wearing when he was cleaning up, and then this little boy ended up with brain cancer because of the radiation on the hat.
Yeah.
It's horrible to read about, but it's important to read about.
It is important to read about. There was also another woman who her husband was, I think he was injured in that initial blow, and he was flown to a specific hospital, and all of the men were in a specific unit, and they didn't keep her out, and she was pregnant.
That she's in the show. That's
Yeah.
what the show was about.
So
he was one of the firefighters. He was not
Thank
there
you.
during their
Okay.
explosion. He showed up to clean up. And
getting her confused with another one.
his skin was like falling
melting
off in
off
sheets because of the exposure to the radiation. But yeah, she wasn't supposed to be in there, but they really didn't work hard to keep her out. And her and her baby were exposed to the radiation just off of him.
Now, in the show, did it happen the same way where the baby came out like dead?
I actually don't remember.
Okay, so from my recollection, the baby came out deformed and not alive.
Yeah.
Like, it was a stillborn and very not human. It didn't even look human.
That was one of the stories in the show.
Yeah.
You should watch the show. The show's really good.
Okay. I watched a documentary on it too.
Yeah.
But
no, the show's amazing. The show's won like so many awards.
I don't know how much, like, the documentary I watched said that, like, a lot of the things, like, in Voices of Chernobyl weren't true, and I kind of don't believe that. Well,
still to this day, they count the Chernobyl death toll as like really low, but it's thought that like hundreds of thousands died as a result of.
They had
Chernobyl.
to.
It wasn't like instant, but over the years, the amount of people who have gotten like some sort of cancer who lived in that area, which were all exposed to like some sort of radiation, especially the closer you live to like a big city. But yeah, a lot of people died slow and painful deaths because of that. Yeah,
I agree. I tend to not believe if something is made specifically to tell you now, well, it didn't really do this.
Well, and of course, once again, this was communist Soviet Union, and then when the Soviet Union fell, like, I feel like a lot of that just got lost in the rubble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, who knows what the actual death toll because of Chernobyl is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Total 180. Next book I read was Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. I just mentioned this in a video that I think is going to go up after this one. I don't know if it'll go up before or after, but it's, summer book recommendations. This was like a really cute summer romance. Very light. It's good if you're looking for something that it doesn't have any spice. So if that's what you're looking for, this would be a good one for you. I gave this one 3.5 stars. I think my biggest complaint is, I don't know if it was because of the lack of spice, but there was like not a ton of tension like I typically like in a romance, but it was really cute. Our female main character owns a flower shop, and she her love interest is one of her best friend's bodyguards who's there for the summer. She has a best friend that's like kind of a celebrity, but they live in this small town, and so the bodyguard is there just kind of guarding her leading up to her wedding, and they've met before, but they kind of reconnect, and she's very inexperienced in the dating world, so he agrees to like teach her how to be better at dating, and that's kind of how their story starts. It's like very much like a Grumpy Sunshine, but it's cute. It's fun. It would be really good for like somebody younger or somebody who, like I said, doesn't prefer to read about spice in their books.
Okay. How many stars did you give that one?
3.5.
Okay.
Which is a decent rating for me. That means like it was a pretty good book, you know?
So the next one I read was The Fiancé Farce by Alexandria Bellefleur. I gave this one 4 stars. This was a sapphic love story.
Love it.
And I loved it. First of all, I love the cover. It's so pretty. Okay, so this story starts with one of our characters who is kind of getting like bullied by her family about like her personal life a bit, and she has to attend she is attending her step-cousin's wedding. I think it's her cousin or her step-cousin, I don't know. And she lies. She has previously lied that she has a girlfriend. She has a girlfriend currently. She said she works in a bookstore, which I love. Come on now. And she's trying to keep the independent bookstore running because it was her father's, and her father has passed away now, and now her stepmother has it, and her stepmother wants to sell it. But she has lied and said that she is dating somebody, who just happens to be one of the cover models on the books.
Okay.
Like a female cover model
Yeah.
on the book. And she said that, and a few people know who that is. And she's at this wedding, her step-cousin's wedding. And ironically, her cousin's getting married to this trash guy that she used to date in high school. Our main character did.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a real uncomfy situation.
Yeah. Sure, like Spanish love deception, where you can't show up to the wedding without somebody.
But guess who Homeboy's cousin is?
No.
The cover model, and she shows up.
Wait, that's kind of fun.
And she shows up. What's even better is she decides to go along with it.
I love that. I love like a fake dating situation.
I love fake dating.
Yeah.
So that's how this started, was fake dating. And of course there's a whole bunch of other like ties. Like I didn't explain it very well about how like the actual cousins tie in and like the bookstore, and there's a whole bunch of things. But basically they meet by chance after she has lied about dating this person already. A few people already go, "Oh my god, your girlfriend's here," and she goes with it. And then
She got
goes our
lucky.
story. She did get lucky. Girlfriend could have ratted her out.
I'd be like, who?
But she was like that.
Yeah, I love that.
Also, I loved, because it was very much like the one who lied about it was very much like kind of anxiety ridden, like kind of sporadic, quiet, meek one.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one was kind of like larger than life, take charge.
So she probably just kind of thought it was funny.
Yeah. So their personalities were very opposite, and I just loved it.
Is there spice in it?
There's spice in it. There is.
Interesting.
There is quite some
It looks
spice.
it looks like very rom-com-y to me, so I didn't
It is
know.
very rom-com-y, but it's spice. And I love the bookstore aspect. She lives above the bookstore.
That's my dream.
I
First of all,
know.
it's my dream to own a bookstore and like live above it.
She lives above it. She's got like 2 cats.
Mm-hmm.
And it was perfect. And then the girl who, she's not just a cover model. She does a bunch of things. She just happened to do some of those. She like lived in an apartment complex with like 4 other people, like in not an apartment complex, but in an apartment with like 4 other people, and they're all like just very, very outrageous in their own fashion, and they play a really, really, really fun part. It was a really fun book,
I love that.
and of course it gets messy, you know,
Of
fake
course.
dating. But yeah, I give it 4 stars. I really liked it.
Oh, I'm gonna start that one. Next one I read was Powerless by Elsie Silver. I've been going through the Chestnut Springs series. I'm skipping around. I accidentally started with the second one, and so because I started with the second one, I probably won't read the first one, because the couple from the first one didn't really seem to interest me all that much. Maybe one day I'll pick it up, but at the second one I loved. This one I didn't like as much, but I still did like it. I gave this one 3.5 stars. This one is the childhood friends to lovers trope, which is one that I feel like is very hit or miss for me, actually.
Yeah, you could really
Yes.
do this very well.
Yes, because I feel like she was pining after him for so long, and then he got to just be like, now I'm interested, and I was like, that was like my biggest complaint.
Oh, I don't like that.
I wanted him to pine a little bit more after her.
Yeah, he should have had to work for it a little bit
Yeah.
more. I think.
And I just feel like I didn't connect with the characters as much in this book as I did when I read the second book. But
Okay, that's fair.
mhm.
That's fair. The next one I read was Narcolepsy by Quinn Spencer. I gave that one 4 stars. It was very informational, helped me a little bit. I was just recently diagnosed with narcolepsy, so trying to learn everything I can. Believe it or not, there's not a lot of books on narcolepsy out there.
I believe that's pretty rare.
Yeah, there's not a lot of information, not a lot of books, but this was one that I was able to get my hands on, and it helped. So, yeah, 4 stars.
Last one I read, just because every single person that I know who reads is talking about this book. It's Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. 5 stars. This one was so good. I get why people are obsessed with it. I feel like the biggest complaint is that it's not written like something super high fantasy, but it is higher fantasy, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So like the verbiage that she uses tends to be a little bit more like contemporary. I actually like that. I think it makes fantasy really accessible for people. I like when people do that. I feel like Sarah J. Maas is one that's really good about doing that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is why her series are so like well loved, is because you don't have to be super into fantasy to be able to read her books and enjoy it. But this one was really good. This is about people who it go to this like academy, I guess, to be like a dragon rider. And our story follows Violet, who was trained her entire life to be a scribe. So she's like smaller than the rest of them, and she is she has some sort of like disability, I think, but she does have like she's just weaker. She's got like weaker bones. She tends to be more brittle. Like they talk a lot about how she's more breakable than everybody else. I'm not sure exactly what the issue is, but
I can't remember the name of the disease, but yeah, it's
well, it has something to do with she got sick something when her mom was pregnant with her, and so she's also described as like being
her bones break easily.
Yeah, and she's lighter complected than the rest of her family, and same with like her hair. Like she just looks like she's leached of color. And
that's something that I'm really excited to read about, because I feel like people who are different and have disabilities and chronic illnesses are not represented enough in books.
100%.
And that's one thing that like when I heard about this, like Rebecca Yarros was talking about this, that I immediately added it to my list, because I was like, this is something I need to read.
Yeah. And I like that it's not unrealistic. Like I feel like a lot of fantasy books will, like, she's this small meek little girl, but she always somehow makes it work. Like she is, the rest of the people in this group that she's in are all physically stronger than her, but they're not smarter than her. She trained her entire life to be what did I say?
A scribe.
A scribe. So she's very well educated, and her father was a scribe. Like she's read a lot. She's very well educated, and so she uses that to her advantage. And I remember that there's this part in the book where she's supposed to start like sparring with people who are like way, and it's also like it's a very brutal book. Like they can kill each other in this. They're not supposed to, but they do like kill each other all throughout this process. And she's like, I'm gonna fucking die if I try to fight that person. So she like goes back to like knowledge that she's learned in the past and like poisons them and stuff. It's like really funny.
That's the way to do it, girl.
Yeah. And she ends up bonding, I don't want to spoil anything, but she ends up bonding with a dragon, and I really love the dragon that she ends up bonding with. They can like hear each other's thoughts and like communicate with each other that way. And so it's a really cool like it's a really cool concept, and I think it was done really well, and I had a ton of fun reading it. And Xaden, I love Xaden.
Okay.
Who's our love interest, obviously.
Okay.
I knew the second he was introduced. He's tall, dark, and handsome. And,
hello.
You know, it was like an enemies to lovers. And,
welcome.
And her sister was like, stay away from Xaden Ryorson. I was like, oh, so she's going to do the opposite of that. Got it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Okay, I have two more. So the next one was Happy Place by Emily Henry, which I gave 4 stars. I was really, really excited to read this. I could not wait. And then I kind of seen what it was about, and I waited. A lot of people have said this is her best work, and it probably is. My favorite is still Book Lovers. I gave it 4 stars. It is not my personal favorite, only because of some of the circumstances in the book I relate to a lot, and it's very fresh for me. I could find a lot of myself in this book, a lot of my situations in this book. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying like I had a tough time getting through it. I liked the characters. I thought the story was very good, and it was told very well. I thought this one had like a little bit less of her like quirky fun, like funny moments, but again, that could just be me, because I was like, this is sad, you know, like relating to it. But I did like it. 4 stars. It's not my favorite from her, but that's just me. That's a me problem. Hi, you know, I'm the problem here, and I know that. But I did enjoy it, and I do recommend it. I told her earlier that she needs to read it, because she probably would like it a lot. And then the last one I read was Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. Oh my God.
Yeah.
5 stars. I read this book in 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
It's messy.
Okay.
And it just gets worse.
Oh.
I could not put it down.
And what kind of book is it? Is it a thriller? Is it just fiction?
It's just fiction.
Okay.
So basically what happens is there's these 2 writers, okay? They've both had books released. And this one, our main character, hers didn't do so well.
Okay.
Kind of flopped.
Mm-hmm.
She did a book tour and everything, kind of flopped. And she's struggling to find her way in the book world. Like, she's got to write another book. She's trying to sell another book to her agent. And then we've got her friend, who's really more of an acquaintance. They're not really friends.
Mm-hmm.
Friends. Her name is Athena. I can't remember what the other one's. Her name is Athena. She was very, very successful. Her book sold many, many copies. She skyrocketed.
Okay.
But she is a very low social media presence. She doesn't seem to really have any friends, like any close people that she talks to. This other person's like the only one that really in like the writing community that she talks to. They were celebrating something, and Athena invited her over to her apartment, and they were talking, and you could tell that like they're friends, but they're not really. It's not like, I mean, they don't really know very much about each other,
Okay.
but they're like acquaintances, you know, like they're cordial. Their biggest thing is like writing. Athena decides to make pancakes, I believe is what happens, or they order pancakes or something. Anyways, Athena chokes on a pancake and dies.
Sorry.
Yeah. Athena chokes on a pancake and dies.
Athena's the more popular one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what's her face? Tried to help her, whatever. Like, while they were having the pancakes, Athena asked Homegirl to go over, like, to read her newest manuscript.
Pancakes are so random. I'm sorry, continue.
Listen, I know. And they were, like, celebrating with, like, champagne and pancakes. It was very strange. But anyways, so she asked her to go over, like, to read her newest manuscript, and she gave it to her to read, like, while they were at the table, whatever. She tried to, like, revive her. Like, she tried the Heimlich, she couldn't get it out, whatever. She called 911, but by the time 911 came, like, she died. Like, legit.
She takes that fucking book, doesn't she?
She takes the fucking book.
This crazy bitch.
She takes the book. And it just gets worse and worse and worse from there. It was a fucking ride, let me tell you.
I want to read this
And
one.
I think being somebody who works in books, like I sell books, I know a bit of the ins and outs. I've also written, so I've released, I've also worked in some publishing. Knowing all the ins and outs, I was like watching this dumpster fire happen, like
there's no way this ends well.
there's no way this ends well, because like it can't end well. Like, this is, so yeah, I left out a big part. The book is on, how it was a specific war back in, like, I think it was around World War I or World War II, and it was specific Asian history and how they were treated. Athena's Asian. This girl's white.
Girl.
Her name is Juniper I just remembered. Her name is Juniper Song something with an H. Like, her last name is like a very Caucasian name. And they decide to change her author name to June Song.
No.
Mm-hmm.
I knew the second you said song, I was like, no.
That's just the first. And you can just see how that's going to spiral.
Not the cultural appropriation.
5 stars. This book was a mess, but a bloody mess, and I loved it.
This crazy bitch, not June.
No, it just crazy bitch. Like, I need you to read it.
I'm going to.
Because I need to talk, like, my friend Sammy read it, and she needed somebody, so I read it, and then we just like, what do you think of this? What do you think of it? It was, crazy.
I'm gonna have to read it.
But honestly, one of the best books I've read in a while.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because, like, honestly, that kept me, it's interesting, it's unique, it's not just, you know, it's not a love story, it's not really a thriller, it's just like...
It's a really good fiction novel.
Yeah, it just keeps your mind going.
Mm-hmm.
It was good.
Yay.
So that's what we have in June.
Mm-hmm.
Comment down below. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you read any of these. Like, I really would like some feedback on some of these.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Yellowface, if you read it. I want to know some things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, comment down below. Let us know what you think. If you have any other ideas for videos that you want to see on the channel, let us know. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Hit that like button and subscribe, and make sure you turn on that notification bell so you know when we post next. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.